when you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done. I'm a wartime president. This is a war. This is a war, different kind of a war than we've ever had. Our country is not supposed to be, it's not built to shut down. Our people are full of vim and vigor and energy. They don't want to be locked into a house or an apartment or some space. It's not for our country. We're not built that way.
Mika, that was good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Joe. That was actually an illustration of what writer Windsor Mann, in his latest spot-on analysis of Donald Trump, has done. Last month, Donald Trump declared victory over the coronavirus. And this month, he declared war. This week, he surrendered. And it's very interesting, Mika, that surrendering is coming as the United States just passed 1,000 deaths. New York City yesterday, New York City alone, one city alone, had more people die from the coronavirus yesterday than died in Afghanistan fighting in 2020, in 2019, in 2018, in 2017, and in 2016 combined. That's right. More people died yesterday in New York City than died this year in Afghanistan, the year before that, the year before that, the year before that, and the year before that. And the president is now surrendering. Already, 1 week in, surrendering. And this ad, Mika, that we're going to be showing later on today, 32,000 cases in New York, 334 deaths. This happening in the state where the president lived his whole life. And just listen to some of these quotes from January the 20th. He's not worried at all. We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be fine. On January 24th, it will all work out well. On January 28th, he retweeted that Johnson & Johnson had created a coronavirus when he knew that was a lie. On January 30th, during a speech in Michigan, he said, we have it very well under control. We have very little problem in this country. Five people. And those people are all recuperating successfully. That was on January the 30th, when it had already been declared a world health emergency by the WHO. Of course, on February 5th, that's when the CDC shipped their faulty tests after Donald Trump said no to getting tests that would have already had Americans tested from the World Health Organization tests. On February 10th, he said, by April, this will miraculously go away. On February 23rd, he said it's very much under control. We had 12 at one point, and now they've gotten very much better. Again, yesterday, in Donald Trump's hometown, 1,000 Americans died of the coronavirus that 1,000 total deaths we went over yesterday. And in his hometown of New York City, 80 people died. Throughout February, Trump also said things were getting better. On February 26th, he said, we're going down, not up, as we skyrocket straight up with new virus and death, new people getting viruses and death. On February 27th, he said it's going to disappear one day. Like a miracle, it's going to disappear. On February 29th, he lied again about vaccines, saying they'd be available very quickly, very rapidly, when everybody said it's going to take a year to a year and a half. On March the 4th, he said it's very mild. On March 7th, he said, I'm not concerned at all. I'm not concerned at all. While today in New York City, doctors and nurses are risking their very lives. Nurses are going around in garbage bags, the New York Post reports, in garbage bags, because Donald Trump refuses to do what it takes to get them the gear they need. March 10th, he said, it's going away. Just be calm. It's going away. And he lied about tests. He said on March 6th, anybody that wants a test can get a test. HHS Secretary Azar lied also about tests. He said there's no testing kit shortage, nor has there ever been. That's just a flat out lie. And Mika, yesterday, Donald Trump, again, lying to the American people, lying in a way that's going to kill more and more American people. We've already seen that. That's not hyperbole. Donald Trump in January was warned by the intel community this was coming. He blew them off. In February, he was warned again. He blew them off. He blew off the World Health Organization begging to give us tests. Yeah. He's made mistakes every step of the way. And now over 1,000 Americans have died. And those numbers, we've been telling you this for 2 weeks. Those numbers are going to skyrocket. Friends, we're not even close to the worst point of this crisis. Not even close. Now, how do I know that? Is this about trying to predict what somebody's going to do in a campaign, or how moving to the left or moving to the right is going to impact a politician's performance in a debate, or how their poll numbers are going to be affected by some wonderful speech they give with beauty? No, this is science. This is data. You can go to the Johns Hopkins website to see the trend lines, where they're going. It's, you see that hurricane coming towards shore? The hurricane's coming towards shore. In fact, the outer bands have started to hit the shore, and it's going to keep coming. And what Donald Trump said in the past, I said last week, didn't matter to me. Really didn't, because I said we'd sort that out in the fall. But now that he's being reckless and irresponsible, now that he is still refusing to do everything he can do to get Americans the testing kits that would not only save lives and shorten this virus, but it would do what he's mainly concerned with.
Right.
Save his businesses. It would save other businesses. It would save the Wall Street from crashing even more. It would save people who are going to be struggling, 30% unemployment perhaps. If you get this widespread testing, as I've been saying for a month now, you can track the virus, where it is, where it's going, who can go back to work and who can't. But Mika, they still refuse, despite the fact I was promised time and again that, and Americans were promised this past weekend, that we were going to hear about great breakthroughs on testing this week. Mike Pence promises that over the weekend. We've heard nothing.
And it's just kind of trickling out. Just
more lies by the president saying, oh, well, we're doing a better job than South Korea. No, South Korea has 50 million people, Mr. President, that live in their country. Here it is, adjusted for population. We have 340 million. So, Mr. President, you're lying when you say that we are doing a better job than South Korea. No, South Korea, actually, if you look at that, the U.S. trails every country in the number of coronavirus tests conducted per million people. And this is science. I don't know, maybe you didn't take science at whatever school your daddy got you into. I don't know. But this is just science. This is just data. Donald, you can't fudge this. You can't negotiate with a pandemic. You can't have a patchwork approach to going to war. Americans are dying. They're going to keep dying, and you're wrecking the economy. You are wrecking the economy unless you start nationalizing the effort to get testing out to every American so we can see who's healthy enough to go back to work. We can see who has the disease and who needs to be quarantined, and we can tell the difference between the two. We are flying blind because of you, Mr. President, and it comes down to testing, testing, testing. We've been telling you this for a month. We're telling you this again. You've got to focus. You've got to save lives, and you've got to save the economy. And right now, you're failing on all 3 points. Do a better job. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.